This title is narrated with virtual voice, computer-generated narration for audiobooks. Sand Dollars and Secret Letters by Lianne James. Introduction to Sand Dollars and Secret Letters. What if you tossed a message in a bottle out to sea, and the tide carried back everything you ever dreamed of, only for you to discover it was built on a lie? Everyone believed Sharon's relationship with Alan was perfect. It wasn't. And after his death 2 years ago, admitting the truth, that their marriage was one of convenience, was unthinkable. But Sharon is done pretending. On what would have been their 25th anniversary, she writes a final goodbye to Alan, slips it into the wine bottle they'd planned to celebrate with, and casts it into the sea, certain no one will ever read her painfully private words. She's wrong. Bruce Barnes, a famous writer who has lost his touch, is desperate to escape scathing reviews and angry fans. He jets off to Turtle Island, oblivious to what awaits him. His father is critically ill, and lives in a hoarder house that's more shocking than any of Bruce's best-selling horror novels. Then, while jogging, he stumbles on a washed-up message in a bottle and becomes fixated with finding its writer. Bruce tracks Sharon down, and their unlikely friendship stirs hope in each of them. They begin to see themselves, and those around them, more clearly. But soon Sharon starts receiving anonymous postcards that rattle her sense of peace. Though the notes are sweet and uplifting, she can't help but wonder who is watching her so closely, and why now? When the truth about how Bruce entered Sharon's life is revealed, she sends him away, shattered. He is heartbroken, but determined to convince Sharon to forgive him. He wonders if she'll accept the only truth that matters, that he fell in love with her mind before ever seeing her face. When the universe hands you everything you ever wanted, would you still take it, knowing it was built on a lie? 1. Sharon. Sharon sat on the beach watching 2 young girls in the water. They were locked in a playful standoff, arguing over whether the thrill of dunking under was worth sacrificing a perfectly good hair day. At first, Sharon was tempted to throttle them for wasting time worrying about such silly matters, especially when her heart was so heavy at the moment. Once she overheard their plans for a bonfire later, she softened, wistfully smiling as they hashed out pressing details regarding transportation arrangements, party attire, and a boy named Brad. She'd once heard a TV psychologist say that a kindergartner's problems were every bit as big as a 50-year-old's when you factored in life experience and perspective. To dismiss a kindergartner's frustration over independently tying his shoes, Dr. So-and-so explained, is the equivalent of telling a doctor he's silly for worrying about performing a surgery he has not yet mastered. Sharon found Dr. So-and-so credible. It wasn't only that he wore a corduroy blazer with elbow patches and compared child-rearing to tending a garden. His points about perspective made perfect sense. How could a 5-year-old identify that a boy pulling her hair on the playground was a secret sign of affection? She didn't yet have the life experience to brush off what, at 30, she'd recognize as a minor annoyance. But studying the wrinkled paper in her hands, the things that weighed Sharon down felt bigger. She watched the tide knock both girls off their feet, settling the wet hair debate. Their lean, golden brown legs and polished toes poked out of the waves, and they emerged laughing hysterically, despite the one girl's fear of looking like a drowned rat if she dunked below the surface. Sharon's mouth curved into a warm grin, remembering a time when life consisted of perfecting her highlights, swimming with her best friend, and showing up to the bonfire looking as much like Heather Locklear as was genetically possible. She wished she could go back to being 16 and tell herself to appreciate fully functional legs and a creamy complexion. Her skin was aging fine, all things considered, but the legs were another story. She'd been hiding in plain sight along the shore. Both her family's business, the Pink Octopus, and home were just a stone's throw over her shoulder, but no one would expect her to be sitting aimlessly on the beach on an ordinary workday. That meant no risk of Ben or Lucinda or Goldie sidling up next to her with a sentimental nudge. "Ah, Shaz," they'd murmur. Alan was a good man. You two had a lot of...
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.